Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most pivotal events in human history, World War I. This wasn't just a conflict. It was a seismic shift that reshaped nations, societies, and the very concept of warfare. So, grab a comfy seat, because we're about to unravel how it all began, what fueled its flames, who was involved, and how this devastating chapter finally closed. You often hear about World War I starting with a single shot, and that's largely true. The immediate spark was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914. He was the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his killing by a Serbian nationalist named Gavrilo Princip sent shockwaves across Europe. Austria-Hungary, understandably furious, saw this as an attack orchestrated by Serbia. They issued a harsh ultimatum to Serbia, which Serbia couldn't fully meet without giving up its sovereignty. When Serbia didn't comply to Austria-Hungary's satisfaction, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia on July 28, 1914. That's the ignition point, but what really caused the wildfire? Well, the causes of World War I were far more complex and had been simmering for decades. Think of it like a pressure cooker ready to explode. Firstly, there was intense militarism. European powers were engaged in an arms race, constantly building up their armies and navies. Germany, in particular, was rapidly expanding its military, which made its neighbors, especially Britain and France, incredibly nervous. This created a climate of fear and suspicion, where every nation felt the need to be stronger than its rivals. Secondly, there was a tangled web of alliances. Europe was divided into two main camps. On one side, you had the Triple Alliance, consisting of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, though Italy would later switch sides. On the other, the Triple Entente, which brought together France, Russia, and Great Britain. These alliances were meant to provide security, but they actually created a domino effect. When Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, Russia, being Serbia's ally and protector of Slavic peoples, began to mobilize its forces. This then triggered Germany, Austria-Hungary's ally, to declare war on Russia and then France. When Germany invaded neutral Belgium to attack France, Great Britain, which had a treaty with Belgium, was drawn into the conflict. Suddenly, a regional dispute had escalated into a continent-wide war. Imperialism was another major factor. European powers were competing fiercely for colonies and resources around the globe, leading to rivalries and conflicts over territories in Africa and Asia. These colonial disputes heightened tensions back home, as each nation vied for global dominance and prestige. Finally, and perhaps most subtly, nationalism played a huge role. People across Europe had a fervent belief in their own nation's superiority and destiny. This intense patriotism fueled desires for independence among ethnic groups and territorial expansion among empires. The desire for a greater Serbia by groups like the Black Hand, which Princip was associated with, was a clear example of how nationalist aspirations could have devastating consequences. The Austro-Hungarian Empire itself was a multi-ethnic empire, facing internal pressures from various nationalist movements. So, who were the main players in this global conflict? On one side, we had the Central Powers, primarily Germany, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria. Opposing them were the Allied powers, led by France, the British Empire including countries like Canada, Australia, and India, Russia, Italy, who joined in 1915, Japan, and eventually, the United States, who joined in 1917. This was truly a global war, involving millions of soldiers and civilians from every corner of the world. The war itself was unlike any before it. It quickly devolved into trench warfare on the Western Front, a brutal stalemate where soldiers lived and fought in a labyrinth of muddy trenches, facing artillery bombardments, machine gun fire, and poison gas attacks. It was a war of attrition, with unimaginable casualties and very little territorial gain. On the Eastern Front, the war was more fluid, but equally devastating, characterized by massive movements of armies and immense suffering. New technologies like tanks, airplanes, and submarines changed the face of battle forever. As the war dragged on, exhaustion set in. Russia, plagued by internal strife and massive losses, withdrew from the war in 1917 after the Bolshevik Revolution. However, the same year saw the entry of the United States, fresh and powerful, tipping the balance decisively in favor of the Allies. American troops, resources, and morale provided a crucial boost. The war finally began to wind down. In late 1918, the Central Powers were crumbling under the relentless Allied offensives and severe internal pressures. Bulgaria was the first to sign an armistice in September. Then, the Ottoman Empire followed suit in October. Austria-Hungary, facing widespread revolts and dissolution of its empire, signed an armistice on November 3rd. Finally, Germany, with its forces exhausted and its population on the brink of revolution, sought an end to the fighting. On November 11, 1918, at 11 a.m., the armistice was signed, effectively ending the hostilities. The guns fell silent, bringing an end to grueling years of conflict. The war officially concluded with the signing of the Treaty of Versailles in June 1919. This treaty placed heavy blame and reparations on Germany, redrawing maps, creating new nations, and establishing the League of Nations, an organization intended to prevent future global conflicts. World War I was a monumental tragedy, leaving an estimated 15 to 22 million deaths, both military and civilian, and countless wounded. It shattered empires, sparked revolutions, and fundamentally altered the course of the 20th century. While it ended in 1918, its echoes profoundly shaped the world that followed, sowing seeds for future conflicts, including World War II. Understanding this war isn't just about dates and battles. It's about grasping the human cost and the enduring lessons it offers about diplomacy, nationalism, and the consequences of unchecked ambition. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through history. If you found this video insightful, please give it a big thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the past. We love having you here.